And welcome to the Alouettes Flightdeck, podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football, presented by our good friends over at Royal Retros, where you don't need a time machine in order to get some sweet, sweet throwback merch. Head over to royalretros.com, use the promo code Flightdeck at checkout, and you will save 10% off your entire order. So royalretros.com, use the code, save 10%, and man, pick up some CFLPA merch, Football Canada merch, and much, much more. Thanks again for being our presenting sponsor. I'm Tim Capper. You can find me on X and Blue Sky over at Repact. That's REPPACT.
Hey now, this is Cliffy D. You can also find me over on X and on Blue Sky over at Cliffy D.
Yes, sir. It is an exciting week. You know, hashtags besides that. I mean, yes, it's not June yet, technically. But man, it is an exciting week, isn't it, man?
Yeah, it's finally May. It's finally football month. It's finally time for the CFL to get going. And as we speak right now, rookie camps are taking place throughout the country. And this coming Sunday, all 9 teams open the doors. Fans are welcome in. It's go time. About damn time, but it's go time.
It's about damn time. Anyways, I don't want to get copyrighted.
No.
Yeah, no. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the teams finally. You know, we'll talk about it, not at length, but the announcement came out today about the guys that we've signed, the Alouettes have signed for the upcoming camp. Talked about the person who was invited by the Alouettes to be a part of their internship program, and I thought it was a very interesting choice. But I mean, there is a lot to talk about. But first and foremost, Cliff, to get us ready, a little bit later on in the show, we have our QB1. Davis Alexander will be joining us to talk about everything leading up to training camp and just a talk to him. Welcome back. It's been a few years since we've had him on the show, but it got him just at the right time, right before he was sequestered. He was sequestered in Saint-Jerome. It's kind of like, is this the Alouettes conclave? Are we not going to find out who's making the roster until we see a red smoke?
Red or blue smoke, anyways, or maybe both. I think that would be the best way to do that. But yeah, very excited. QB1. It's been a hot minute since we've had Davis on the show, so we're excited to be able to talk with him again. And yeah, I mean, he's come a long way, and it's been quite the journey for Davis. And we're so excited to see what he's going to be able to do in his first camp as the starting quarterback for your Montreal Alouettes.
Exactly. And, what better to give, to set us up for the interview itself. Good. We'll do a little bit of a primer of what we're looking forward to and stuff like that. But I can say first and foremost, before we talk about our primer, do not forget that we will be there day one on Sunday. So come and say hey to us. If you happen to have some of our merch, hey, we won't sign it. I'm not bringing a pen. I'm sorry. I mean, but
bring your own pen.
Yeah, there you go. But we will be there. And the 2025 broadcast premiere of Flightdeck Live, powered by Sport Buff. First episode of this season, and we just can't wait to start that broadcast season.
Absolutely. It's going to have to make up for the fact that we're not going to be able to spend time with our moms on Mother's Day. Sorry, moms. We love you, but football's calling, and in this case, I'm going to go see my mom on Saturday, so
yeah,
I feel less guilty now.
So talking about camp itself, obviously, it is being held for the second year in Saint-Jerome. I'm curious to see, because you and I both know about the particular issues that they had last year when it came to. I think that first year it was the starting with 2 fields, going finally switching to 1 because of potentially certain issues with the other field and player safety. We'll see how that gets corrected, if at all. And as we had mentioned on the pod and with former President Mark Waitman, we're curious to know how they were going to potentially change the fan experience at camp, because it was almost as funny. We were talking about being sequestered. It's almost as if these guys were being sequestered, the way that they were coming and going in between camp and the fans. So I'm curious to see if there's going to be actually a slight differentiation on how they do it this year.
Let's hope so, because I mean, we've been talking ad nauseum about how important it is for fans to go to training camp. This is your chance to see, the stars of your football team and even the new stars of your football team, and getting a chance to get to know them and see what they're capable of doing. And it's a great opportunity for you to meet with them post practice and get those autographs, get those selfies, and get a chance to get to know these guys, on a one-on-one basis. And last year, it just felt like the infrastructure was just not there for that. Like, yeah, you could interact, but it felt so weird. Like it was giving those like COVID vibes, as far as like, social distancing and, just watching from afar, and, just not really getting that true experience that we've had in years previous. So I sincerely hope that the people of the city of Saint-Jerome and the Alouettes organization themselves, I hope they took not just our concerns, but the concerns of others as well in mind with that. And they've modified things so that the fans truly do get that post-practice atmosphere that I was talking about, that quite frankly, they richly deserve. If you're going to make the trek to Saint-Jerome to watch these guys do their thing, you should be rewarded with a chance to be able to sit and talk with them afterwards, or get those selfies or autographs or what have you. So here's hoping that this year's experience will be a little better. I'm willing to write off last year as the first time in Saint-Jerome, so there's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some, a little bit of a clunky, feeling your way through the dark kind of vibe to it. But my hope is that they figured it out for this year and for next year, essentially too. And let's just hope for a great camp experience, not just for the players, not just for the organization itself, but for the fans as well, because quite frankly, they deserve it.
And it'll be interesting to see, obviously, with what happens with the inter-squad game the following week. Not many complaints at all, to be honest with you. We just hope it is gorgeous like it was last year. But we'll see what modifications they happen to do for the fans. And I hope that they come out in droves, because I think it was last year. I think they said it was in between 4,500 and 5,000 people that came out, I think, to watch the inter-squad game last year. So that's a huge positive. And again, it's just a matter of what the city and what the team's going to offer for the fans come next Saturday.
Well, that's it. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results each time. They saw what happened last year. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for Alouettes Nation. They've got it figured out, and they're ready to deliver the best possible experience so that everybody walks away feeling like a winner.
Yeah. Now, on team wise, I guess we could say everything's looks to be the same with Coach Moss. Obviously, there's a slight modification for Danny Machocha with the Alouettes. I guess we could say they're getting rid of the title of president and CEO, but Danny has had some added duties added to his title. But it looks like it hasn't had, neither so far doesn't seem to have missed a beat, and we'd have to see what they had to say on camp come Sunday. Other than that, we've seen the rosters that we currently have. We saw what the team was able to get in not only the Canadian draft, but through free agency. I still think, Cliff, in my opinion, that one of the biggest storylines right now is at quarterback. Because the Alouettes really, it's not a real half of the room has been turned around. It's just that how the quarterback room has been reshuffled, I would say.
That's fair, or revamped even. That would be another way of putting it. You're right, because again, this time last year we were talking about Cody Fajardo and Davis Alexander being the quarterbacks of this team, along with Caleb Evans for short yardage. Cody Fajardo is now a member of the Edmonton Elks, and replacing him, so to speak, as Davis Alexander becomes QB1, as we've discussed, is one McLeod Bethel-Thompson, a CFL journeyman who does have experience in helping a team win a Grey Cup. Did it for the Argos in 2022. Now he's going to come in to be a bit of a mentor of sorts for Davis and for Caleb, as well as draft pick, 2025 draft pick, Jonathan Senecal.
Mm-hmm.
The thought is to keep him as quarterback, because typically in the past, you've seen where quarterbacks get drafted, Canadian quarterbacks, I should say, get drafted into the CFL and end up switching positions into something else, usually receiver, sometimes in other positions as well. But the thought is that Senecal's got the goods, that, if you mold him properly, give him the proper training, the proper seasoning, if you will, he could become a fine young quarterback as well. And the best example I can give for that is Davis Alexander. 3 years ago, he was brought in. Let's face it, we didn't know him from a hole in the wall, but that first day, like we saw something in this young man, and we thought, okay, same thing with the right amount of training, with the right amount of coaching, getting to learn from legends like Anthony Calvillo. His teammates at the time were Vernon Adams and Trevor Harris, who they know what to do in a CFL field. So, maybe this was maybe this young man could become something special. And again, 3 years later, look where Davis Alexander is. Could that be Jonathan Senecal in 3 years? Maybe. I mean, if they follow that career path with Senecal that they did with Alexander, sky's the limit as far as I'm concerned. So that's going to be something I'm really curious to see, because I think pretty much the roles have been set by and large. I mean, Davis Alexander is QB1. There's no question about it. No ifs, ands, or buts. I would say McLeod Bethel-Thompson can come in if needed to not lose games for the Alouettes. Caleb Evans, that's your short yardage right there. And Senecal has the opportunity to grow and learn and maybe even get a few reps himself one of these days. So it's going to make for a very interesting, very exciting quarterback room, I think, here in Montreal. And need I remind you, it gets started this Sunday.
That's true. And I think, isn't it the slight difference too with Senecal this year is that because he was invited in to be the part of the mentor program, or the I would call it the mentor
QB internship program.
Yeah, the internship program. He wasn't able to play. It's different for him this year, obviously.
That's right. He's actually competing for a job. I think last year was more like getting his feet wet, getting in the idea of being in an actual professional football locker room, learning from honest to goodness pros, learning from honest to goodness CFL coaches. And he was able to take that knowledge back to the Carabin and finish his youth sports career. But now he's actually competing for a job. Like, he's looking to do this as, for making a living. So I believe he's going to get just as many opportunities as possible. But it's going to be a little bit different than what it was for him in 2024. But I'm really excited to see what Jonathan Senecal as Montreal Alouette is going to look like. To me, putting that as really as the story to start the start camp itself, what would you put as your number 2 story? I think for me, it's going to be seeing, once again, this team lives and dies in the trenches. I want to see who's going to be protecting Davis Alexander along the offensive line. I want to see the constant reworking and revamping of the defensive line by Danny Machocha, which has been his pet project from day one in this organization. We've got some really, really exciting talent on both sides, like on the offensive and defensive line. So I'm going to be looking at that. I'm going to look and see how they match up against each other. I mean, again, everybody looks good in camp, right? Everybody looks, like you're given a chance to shine. You're given a chance to do what you do best. So, I mean, we may not see some true competition until we start getting into the preseason games, but I'm really excited to see what a lot of these guys, most notably, friend of the show now, Joshua Archibald. I'm looking forward to seeing how he lines up with guys like Isaac Adeyemi Berglund, Anthony Bennett, Sean Oakman, another free agent add-on. I mean, there's a lot of talent. I mean, there's a lot of talent on this defensive line, and I'm curious to see how it all works out. Same thing with the offensive line too. Tiger Shanks, the first round draft pick in this year's draft, he's going to get thrown into the mix right away, and he's going to have to compete alongside of guys like Pierre-Olivier Lestage, Justin Lawrence, Jamar McGloster, Joshua Donovan. I mean, these are some big boys too that are going to be looking to shine like never before. So they say football games are won and lost in the trenches. So that's where I'm going to be focusing a lot of my attention on, to see just how these massive hunks of beef get out there and hit each other and do what it takes to make both sides of the trenches really exciting football.
I agree. We do know that Davis, he's able to get out of the pocket and do his running. I mean, as we saw in the the 4.5 starts that he did last year. Another thing that I'm looking at, and it's overall encompassing, sort of like you did about what was in the trenches, is seeing some of these guys that really at the end of the season on the injured list, and seeing how their off season has progressed, and seeing how they are able to get back into the groove. I mean, we have no doubt. We've seen it before with guys who've coming back, from major injuries. Well, we use Reggie White as a great example, even though he's not with the team anymore. Mm-hmm. But Tyson Philpott, how he is going to react coming back. Mustafa Johnson finished the year being hurt. It's a matter of seeing how well and then even in one of our conversations last year, even Austin Mack admitted he was not 100%. He was playing hurt. So I'm curious to see how these guys are able to get back into what we know that they can do, what the fans know that they can do. And on top of that too, Cliff, that could ease. And I'm hoping that's not a story this year for the Alouettes, because for the past 2 seasons, it's been a major storyline, despite the Owls winning the Grey Cup and having the league's best record last year, is the injured list. The injured list really, really did hurt the Alouettes these past 2 seasons, despite how well they did. And I'm just hoping it can be a season where there's a balance of, there's going to be guys getting hurt. We know that. There's no doubt about that. But it's just a matter of let's have it balanced, where few guys here maybe, but yet it's not stopping the team from gelling, doing what they need to do, and obviously continue winning. So to me, right there, and I know it's really 2 different things, but I think those are 2 big things that we need to look at when it comes to camp starting this week.
Yeah. Another thing I'm going to be looking forward to is possible redemption stories. You recall last year, Lorenzo Burns came in relief of, again, you talk about the injuries that plagued this team, especially in the secondary. Lorenzo Burns came in, a lot of hype with him. A lot of people were very high on him, on what he was been able to do on a football field. And I'm sorry to say, didn't quite live up to expectations. There were times where he just looked lost out there. And we've seen this before with the Alouettes. We've talked about it numerous times, how guys get in there and we're just going, what the hell? This guy does not belong on this team. He doesn't belong on the football field. And then something happens, everything turns 180, and they turn into like absolutely phenomenal football players that you just simply cannot live without. Talk about guys like Wesley Sutton, Kevion Ento, as far as those redemption stories, and look how they turned out.
Yeah.
Could 2025 be the year where Lorenzo Burns, it's like the switch gets flipped for him and he becomes that outstanding player that many people have expected him to be? For his sake, I hope so. I mean, there is talent there, but I mean, towards last year, and maybe he was just thrown into a really tough situation, like kind of thrown into the fire. And sometimes they do that. They throw you in the deep end, basically, and tell you either sink or swim. And unfortunately, he seemed to sink more than he swam. So I'm curious to see if he can get back on track and compete and become a member of this vaunted secondary. Because if not, there's definitely a lot of talent out there that can step up and make those moves. I'm also thinking about Tyrell Richards, first overall draft pick from a couple of years ago.
Just about to say he falls into the last two things we just talked about.
I mean, listen, I got nothing but love for Tyrell. Just absolutely phenomenal player when he's healthy. But when he's hurt, he's not there. And it's definitely affecting him as far as how he's perceived on this team. I mean, when he's on the field, he does amazing things. I still think back to the pick 6 in Winnipeg a couple of years ago. Absolutely sensational. But when you're spending more time on the 6-game list than in the actual lineup, that's troublesome. And it's so easy to get lapped in this league. I mean, you're only as good as your last game, as they say. And I hope, once again, Tyrell Richards, in camp, he's going to do that. He's going to come, he's going to show up, he's going to show out. That's what he does. He does that extremely well. I just hope for his sake he stays healthy and really stays, on the roster, really stays on and shows exactly what he can do. Because, again, there are few better than him at the linebacker position, but he's got to be able to be on the field to show it. So my hope is that, especially working with guys like Darnell Sankey and Tyrese Beverett and even Jeffrey Kante-Arku, who kind of supplanted him because being injured, obviously you're not getting on the field. Kante-Arku was able to go in there and had a very respectable first season here in Montreal. I want to see Tyrell and Kante-Arku be like that 1-2 punch as far as national linebackers go. They've got the talent. There's no question about that. It's just a matter of, can Tyrell stay healthy enough, play more than a couple of games here and there, and be the player that we truly expect him to be?
I think a minor story to me probably would be the kicking game. Obviously, with David Cote retiring, obviously Jose Maltos made a huge name for himself. Again, the bringing in of these global players through the global draft have helped some teams. Some have made a huge name for themselves, and others just haven't really done anything. But I think it's just a matter of, we kind of were puzzled and it was intrigued at the same time when we saw that the Alouettes, for the first time in eons, brought in two players to do two different things when it came to the kicking game, with punting and with field goals.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed to have worked. Maltos did what he did fantastic last year, almost eclipsing Sean White's team record for most field goals in a row. Mm-hmm. But I think what we've seen over the past couple of years with Danny Mac coming in is that he's bringing in some guys and he makes sure that he keeps them on the practice roster, to have them maybe in the back of their heads a little bit, the guys who are the ones, just to make sure that there are still guys here that could potentially supplant you. And with the Alouettes picking up two guys, two other punters, two other kickers in the global draft, all the more reason to have people say, well, Tim, they're just kickers. We've seen kickers can be very important, sometimes be just as important as a wide receiver or running back, depending on what is happening and what the game plan may be. So I'm interested to see. And again, if you're at camp, you're in Saint-Jerome, sometimes you may need to look away from what's happening on the main field if this is how they're going to be doing it, and maybe just watch the punters, watch the kickers, and see what they're able to do, because maybe, just maybe, they're having a little bit of a competition themselves to see who maybe can kick. And if it's true for some of these guys that we picked up, the global kickers, some of these guys can hammer the ball. So it could be, again, it's a minor story, but I think it also is another very important story, though, I think, heading into camp.
I agree, because you're right. Jose Maltos was doing excellent things in relief of David Cote as far as the field goal kicking game goes. Joseph Zima, his coffin corner punts are phenomenal, like almost works of art even. And now you've got Sam Clark, who was also taking the global draft last year, kind of waiting in the wings, waiting for that opportunity. It sounds awful to say waiting for Zima to get hurt so that maybe he can get out there and show what he can do. But ultimately, that's what training camp is all about, is to let a lot of these guys truly develop and give the opportunities to show what they can do. Because I don't think the Alouettes are going to go back to the whole hybrid kicker / like kicker and punter, like one guy doing both duties. I think those days are done. I mean, it's done as far as I'm concerned. I think Maltos and Zima have done a phenomenal job as kicker and punter respectively. But you're right. I definitely think the idea is to foster a little bit of competition, sort of keep you on your edge a little bit, because we've seen it in the past too, where kickers kind of rest on their laurels just a little bit, thinking, well, they're not going to cut me because I'm the only one here. Well, that's not the case anymore. You got to show that you belong. You got to show that you're here to compete. Like, it's not just a given that you're going to be the Alouettes field goal kicker or the Alouettes punter. Like, a little bit of competition, I think, is going to be great. It's something that, as they say, iron sharpens iron, right? So, I mean, I want to see these guys, earn that spot. I mean, I don't want it to be just given to them by default. So I'm really excited. I'm like you said, I'd like to take a couple minutes and see what these guys are doing, and not just assume that, oh, well, okay, Maltos and Zima were there last year. Okay, yeah, but that was last year. We're in this year right now. I want to see what's going on in 2025. I want to see what kind of depth the Alouettes have at that position, and just how much these guys are pushing each other to be the best kicker / punter possible.
I want to know if the Alouettes are going to bring in a wind machine just to simulate what happened for the last home game last year versus Winnipeg, because why not? It's training camp. You know what I mean?
Well, listen, they bring out these loudspeakers to simulate crowd noise, right? So why wouldn't you get like a giant wind turbine and just put it in Joseph Zima's face and like, hey, dude, you got to get that. You got to get past that. This is how you get to be the best possible. I'd welcome it, to tell you the truth, but that might be a bit of a big expense. But we'll see. You know what though? There's no such thing as a bad idea, and I kind of like that, actually, to tell you the truth.
One of the things I'm actually looking forward to this year, and it's not really much of a storyline itself, but then again, the coaching staff could be kind of a storyline in itself too. But I'm considering what we saw what Coach Quick did last year and what we experienced firsthand with them when it came to the drills that they ran on, was it day one that they ran the kicking drills? I actually want to experience that again, because I never played football, but just the passion and it's the teaching aspect. It's a teaching aspect. And sir, you may have been playing football for most of your life, but you got to learn that there are certain things you can and can't do when it comes to, as an example, to kicking. You got to stay away from the guy's legs. It hurt the Alouettes a few times last year. So I think it's another thing too. I think that fans need to watch. Besides, look at how the coaches teach. Look at how they react. Look at how you know what I mean? It's obviously you're probably going to get something different from an AEC versus Coach Quick, or an AEC versus Coach Thorpe, or Coach Moss as an example. But it's just the intricacies of what these guys can do, because remember, these guys are still the players. They're fighting for jobs. They're fighting for jobs, no matter if they were a veteran last year on the Alouettes and they were 1, 2, or they're in the depth chart for most of the season. Again, I'm interested that it's all aspects really of this camp that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, and a lot of people are going to say, look at the coaches, screaming and yelling, and it looks like they're giving guys the business, basically. But in all reality, you're right. It's how they teach. It's how they get through to these guys, because ultimately that's what coaching is about: is to take guys that have all the talent in the world. It's just making sure that they can execute properly and pay attention to all of those other details that you don't think about. I mean, you're right. Coach Quick, arguably one of the best coaches in the league, and a great teacher. Michael Ianello, receivers coach. I want to see what he's going to come up with, as far as he's got some really great receivers at his disposal. I want to see what he's able to do and make these guys even better. Again, I'm not going to doubt anything when it comes to Jason Moss or Noel Thorpe, because arguably the best play calling tandem in the Canadian Football League. I mean, those guys are second to none. They've proven it time and time again. Really excited to see what any new tricks they may come up with this year, because they're just, all they do is win. They win a lot more than they lose. So I'm curious to see how they keep that going, how they throw new wrinkles into the offense and defense respectively, and make things really exciting. Yeah, I think we're getting really excited for this, Tim. I think we're really excited to see some honest to goodness football action.
Yeah,
I know I am. I know I am.
I know we won't see it in camp, but we also want to see what Coach Moss is able to pull out of the playbook, because he's done it a few times, and that they obviously. And it's funny, the new commissioner even said this week that he liked the dribble punt, so that's a plus. That won't be going away, at least for it looks for the next couple of years from the way it sounded. But I mean, I know he's not on the competition committee, but I'm curious to see how Coach Moss is able to use the entire rule book to whatever is at his disposal, take advantage of it.
100%. And again, just to hear him explain it as well is going to be a treat. And that's something that's I think that's been sorely lacking from us for a while, is a good sit down with Coach Moss to sort of break down a lot of what we see and what's going on out there, and having him explain it the way he does, which is, as I've said, second to none. So yeah, I mean, there's so many great aspects that you're going to see if you get to Saint-Jerome this Sunday. You're going to see so much action. You're going to see so many storylines possibly developing. There's so much going on. I mean, you're going to need a program to keep up with everything, which they don't have, but maybe they will this year. We'll see.
You never know. We talked about it at the beginning of the show, Cliff, and obviously, as you said, there are a lot more stories, but I think it's actually time that we talk to somebody who's actually going to be involved in this. As we said at the beginning of the show, we have a guy that we brought back for the first time in a little bit, didn't we?
Yep. As I said, first time we had him on, he was just a young pup, and now he's QB1 and arguably one of the most exciting players in the Canadian Football League. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're thrilled to have him back onto the show. We're going to be speaking with David Alexander right after these messages.
So we're heading into camp. It's about that time where the 2025 season will actually start. And what better way to get to find out what's going to happen with leading up to camp, and find out what our new QB1 has been doing for the off season. We welcome back to the flight deck, Davis Alexander. Davis, thanks for joining us, bud.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
It's been a minute, man. Last time we had you on, you were like a fresh-faced young rookie just trying to find his spot on this football team. And now look where you are. Look what's happened in that time. Isn't this incredible?
Oh yeah, it's been a heck of a journey, heck of a ride, but excited as ever, of course.
Obviously, we know with what's happened in the off season when it came to you signing an extension with the Alouettes. I would say essentially becoming QB1, but I mean it's because I would imagine that going into camp, obviously you will be listed as one on the depth chart. But I was curious to know, Davis, despite what's been reported out there, salaries, et cetera, I was curious to know: is there any part of the negotiation process or how it came to be that you signed your extension that you did that was not reported in the news that you might be able to give a little bit of insight on?
I know that shortly after the season, I think the coaches did their due diligence and evaluated as they do every single year. But they kind of wanted, I didn't know if I was necessarily going to come back right away or what their thought process was. They said, of course, that they wanted me back. They just weren't sure what that role was necessarily going to be, whether it was going to be a starter or whether I wanted to come and back up. So I think, my side, we kind of did our sort of, our own due diligence, and I made it clear to them that I did want to be back, obviously, particularly as a starter, but I didn't rule out necessarily coming back as a backup. But I was definitely going to feel out the market if that's what we came back with, or if that's what they came back with. Ultimately, I think they made a really, really tough decision, and they were able to kind of give me the confidence and say, hey, we see you as the future, and we see you as possibly being quarterback one. And we were able to come, pretty close to what our numbers, what the numbers we wanted were. And, I'm extremely thankful for it. And it's tough that it happens, to kick out one of my great friends in Cody. But I mean, I'm sure he would tell you the same thing. It's a business, right? It's tough. But it doesn't take away that everything that, Cody has done for me, and how he's made me a better player, and always been extremely nice guy to me, and always wanted, always had my best interest in his mind, and I appreciate that more than anything.
I can only imagine what it's going to be like for that first time that you go to Edmonton comes to town. It's going to be very unique considering this quarterback situations on both sides of the ball, if you think about it. But I remember seeing how you reacted. I think it's the picture that I saw you after the Eastern Final and stuff like that. And I remember seeing your interview for Garbage Bag Day. I guess we'll call it Garbage Bag Day. But how tough is it to be able to face the media and to answer questions that you really had no answer to? Because obviously, as you said, you had some stuff stuck in your head on how you wanted this to work out. And I don't think the team may have not have spoken to you at length at that point, but how tough is a day like that where you have to give an answer where there really is no answer to give?
Yeah, I mean that's a tough question in itself right there. I don't know. I think you try and stay true to who you are, and and truly what you believe. And I know that I always put in the work, and I always tried to give myself the best opportunity, for a moment like this. So you kind of hang your hat on that, and you kind of let whatever you want to call it, let God take over, let your work speak for itself, and then truthfully, at that point, especially at that point in time, it's totally out of your hands, right? I mean, you could say all the right things. You could say you want to be back 100%, but you don't know what's going to happen, right? You don't know what upstairs is thinking. So I really tried to answer it as honestly as I could, but I really didn't know a whole lot of information.
Yeah. And I'll let Cliff get a question in here. Question in here? But out of curiosity, how was your first experience of really going through your first major free agency negotiation?
Yeah, I'm thankful it happened pretty quickly, right? I think I signed before December, right? So it was only, I think, maybe 2.5 weeks. I'm glad I didn't have to go through the stress of getting all the way to February, that opening window. So I would say, I said it went pretty well. Again, I didn't have to worry too much. I'm sure there were a couple meetings that didn't go necessarily the way we wanted to at first, but ultimately we feel like it worked out, and have zero complaints.
All right. Now, you've learned from some pretty admirable quarterbacks in this league, guys like Vernon Adams Jr., Trevor Harris, Cody Fajardo even. Now that you're walking into 2025 training camp as QB1, what's the biggest lesson you got from any of those guys that you're going to take in under center this year in 2025?
Oh, I mean, I think the number one thing is what all those guys did such a good job of is everybody on the team wanted to play for them, right? That's the true markings of being a great quarterback. Yes, there's skill involved, there's all that, there's leadership, but as soon as you're able to kind of look into each one of your brother, your teammates' eyes, and you know that everybody else is rocking there with you, that's something that I took away from all of them. I saw the way that how other people on the team looked at them, and the respect that they just demanded, right? Their presence in every day, whether it's the huddle, whether it's just in the locker room, or we all hang out outside of football too. So it's like there's so much that goes into it, farther than just the X's and O's, and just just playing simple pitch and catch. There's a lot more that goes into it, and I mean, all those guys, their work ethic is unmatched. They all get there. You know, they're one of the first people in, one of the last people out. And I'm truly thankful that I was able to see it and watch these guys be successful while doing all that stuff. So a couple points right there.
Oh, 100%, especially the way you talk about how your teammates just sort of fall into step with you. I mean, we saw that almost immediately when you went into that first game against Saskatchewan after Caleb Evans, unfortunately, didn't have the best start. It was almost like a paradigm shift. Like all of a sudden, like a switch was flipped, and all of a sudden everybody was just in tune with you right away. And does that come from being like just the preparation that you guys do during the week, or is it just simply a matter of having the confidence to say that, listen, guys, I got this, follow me?
Yeah, I mean, it's preparation. I'm sure a lot of the guys, everyone, especially who's been there since my rookie year, I'm sure they've seen, some of the work that I put in and, some of the early days and late nights. But, I don't need any praise for that. I do it because I want to and because I love it. But, yeah, I'm sure some of that goes into it. I mean, I think the other part is they probably see, I play the game pretty hard and I'm willing to, sometimes maybe it's not the best, but I take shots when maybe I shouldn't, or maybe they're not necessary. But I think that speaks to some of the other guys that are every single play, getting put on their, getting double teamed or, it's a very violent sport. It's a very violent game. And I think it's just important to show, my guys, coaches, everybody, that I would do anything for us to win. So, and I think, yeah, obviously a lot that went on with me personally last year. I think, people found some respect in that. And, I was traveling a bunch and wasn't always able to be at the facility or practice, but I always made sure that I was still putting in as much time as I could in preparation, and thankfully was able to lead us to a couple wins.
Couple of wins, my goodness! You're still undefeated as a CFL starter, Davis. I don't know if you've realized this, but you are undefeated.
Knock on some wood for me.
And we're still trying to get the CFL to give you to put an asterisk by your 4-0 record, or to give you a win in relief, especially for that Saskatchewan comeback. It's like, just give the man his due,
Yeah, that's okay. They'll all end up working themselves out, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk quickly about that game in Saskatchewan that you played, which, as far as I was concerned, was the game of the year. You talk about cinema. That was absolute cinema. I mean, you're going into a hospital environment, like Saskatchewan, it's crazy. They're wild. They love the football and everything like that. And you're going up against one of your mentors, in a way, in Trevor Harris. I mean, take us through that game and the feelings that we're going through and everything, and how you managed to just barely, but you got the W, but you just barely got it. Take us through that.
Yeah, that was honestly probably one of the toughest weeks of my life, just personally. I think just everything that just went into that, like you said, Saskatchewan being probably top 2 hostile environments I would say. But it was a Friday night. Their fans were rowdy. I think I had slept for 3 or 4 hours before we got on that first flight, because I was flying back from Phoenix, and that's like probably a 10-hour trip. I don't think we could get a direct flight. And then we had practice the next day, and and I think I had one of the worst practices I ever had. Again, I hadn't had any sleep much, but I had one of the worst practices, but I knew just kind of going in, everything will come around and I'll be ready to go. I just need to catch up a little bit on some sleep. But that was, all of that kind of played a little bit of a factor of just like, again, trusting yourself, trusting your preparation, trusting what you do, trusting the player you are. And, I think we stalled out. I think, we were playing okay offensively. We had the huge kick return from Lech off the missed field goal. And I think we might have stalled out like 4 or 5 drives in a row, and I think we finally got the ball back with like minute 45 or 2 minutes to go, and we just made a couple of plays. I think Cole Speaker for like a 25, 30-yard on a scramble. Then we got an unfortunate personal foul right after that, knocks us kind of out of field goal range. Made a couple more plays, and then obviously the final play, it was like 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8, and saw a little bit of a window, and just by the grace of God, miraculously was able to split a couple defenders and keep my foot barely in bounds. And then our defense stood on their head one last time, and we were able to get out of there with a pretty big win.
Oh, without question. And listen, Saskatchewan, Rider Nation, there was green in between Davis's shoe and the sideline. So the conspiracy theories, all that nonsense, I hope has been already put to bed, but you heard it from the man himself. There's plenty of space. Touchdown counts. That's it.
That's what says in the record book. That's what says in the record book. Like, who would have thought that day, Davis, that you had to put on your dancing shoes? Who would have thought?
Right. That's off-season work. You always do it for a reason.
I know sometimes players aren't necessarily superstitious, or some aren't, or they don't really think about their stats and all of that. Is that one play going to stick with you for quite a while?
Oh yeah. Again, I think just everything that went into the kind of that week as well, and just it's definitely something that I'll remember forever. Just you kind of black out in those moments, those crazy moments like that, and I just was thankful and so happy, so proud, and ultimately, like, the only thing that I ever say, the only thing that matters is we ended up getting a win out of that. I was just very thankful we didn't have to go to overtime.
Especially last year, man. Overtime was such a beast last year.
Yeah.
Obviously 2024 didn't end the way you'd hoped it would. Going back to looking at the Eastern Final, or just going back and seeing really the Alouettes, the ups and downs that the Owls had that year, starting off with 10 wins and then going on a little bit of a down stretch. But what's the one thing that you take away the most from the 2024 season?
Oh, just that nothing's guaranteed. I mean, we saw it the year, we hoped we would have learned that lesson when we saw the year before with Toronto, right? I think they were 16-2, and then we went in and, played pretty well against them on their home turf. They probably thought that they were going to, just probably walk through us and get to the Eastern Conference or get to the Grey Cup again. But so I would just say, like, I'm pretty sure practically the whole year we were ranked as whatever the number 1 team in the power rankings. I think towards the end, I think they started moving us around like 3 or whatever. But it just shows you that no team is just gonna, lay down for you and just let you run all over them. And it's a long season, and you got to find a way to keep digging. You got to find a way to keep grinding, and you can't get complacent because it's any given Sunday, right, or whatever day we're gonna end up playing on. But it's the league is so competitive, and every team is good. No matter what anyone says, every team is good. There's star players all over the league, and you gotta find a competitive edge every single week, or something like that can happen in the East Final.
By the way, Cliff, as you saw, even Davis agrees there are superstars in the CFL, unlike some people who think out west.
I guess that's I guess I shouldn't have said that. That's a tough topic right now.
Listen, they calling you Big Play DA for nothing, bud. I mean, that's a superstar nickname. I'm sorry.
Yeah. We got rookie camp coming up. You're going to be heading over to Saint-Jerome very shortly, and then starting main camp. Is there going to be anything that you're going to be doing differently this year, Davis, going into rookie camp and being the arm for some of the rookies?
No, like I said, I've tried to keep like my whole off season the same. I've tried to, my mentality the same. Don't change if, it's not necessarily broken. Maybe I'll be more of the mentor type role to some other quarterbacks in our room, but I mean, it's pretty much the same quarterbacks except, we're adding McLeod. So I don't know. I think, it's going to be, we're all one oiled machine, right? We all got to work together. I don't, of course, I'm going to be there to answer questions if people have it, but I don't want anyone to think that, I'm taking over this ship or, I'm changing my mentality. I'm going to be the same person. And, hopefully everyone just sees that as, just the way that I'll be. And, maybe I'll have a little bit bigger of a leadership role, but I would have liked to think that last year I had a pretty good leadership role. So again, I plan on pretty much just staying the same and just making sure we're ready to go come June 6th.
But those rookies, they better have your donuts, right?
No, I'm not. I wouldn't even make them do that either. I'm good on that. They just come ready to play.
All right. Fine.
I was about to say, so much for us going to pick up Davis a dozen of Krispy Kreme donuts. Oh, wow.
Well, we're veterans at this point too, Tim. Come on now.
Have you had a chance to talk to MBT at all this offseason?
We talked a little bit. We haven't talked like too much. But he said some great things to me, and he seems excited to be with us, and I know I'm excited to have him for sure. He's got a heck of an arm, and he might be able to help me, or definitely will be able to help me kind of see the game how he sees it, and then I feel like we have pretty similar arm strength, so that could benefit us both, honestly, in the long run.
Sure. Cliff?
Wow. Well, listen, Davis, this has been absolutely incredible. I guess before I let you go, I do have one burning question.
Yes, sir.
Every year since you've been a member of the Alouettes, you have changed your jersey number. Can you please let everybody know, everybody in Alouettes Nation and league-wide know, you're sticking with the 10 forever now?
I will be sticking with 10 forever.
Good, because I tell you, man, everybody wants to buy your jersey, but if you keep changing your number, I mean, it's expensive, dude.
Well, no, I know that, but yeah, no, I'll be wearing 10 forever now.
All right, which again is a great tribute for you folks that don't know about it. We've talked about it before. Absolutely wonderful tribute to your dad, Davis, and I think it's awesome. You definitely rock that 10. It looks good on you too, so why not?
I appreciate that. Absolutely.
So heads up to the Alouettes boutique.
Let's
go. 10 jerseys make them available on the website, and give some love to QB1 here. So Davis, we are really excited to see what you're going to do in 2025. We're looking forward to seeing you at camp at Saint-Jerome. We'll be there on day one there, and a couple more of the dates there. But then we're really looking forward to talking to you and seeing what you're going to do. But I think I can say on behalf of Cliff and myself, we're proud of you, bud. We've seen you from what you've become from day one in Trois-Rivières until now, and nothing but the best for you in 2025. And we can only imagine what you're going to do.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I appreciate it.
It's fun getting the insight to your starting quarterback and talking to Davis. Obviously, you can tell he is such a chill guy. He loves the game that he's playing, and obviously heading into camp, he just seems to be ready. If you've seen some of the, obviously, Cliff, we've seen some of the footage that he's done during the off season. The guy's ready. The guy's ready for his shot. And obviously, fans, media, and us alike, we can't just wait to see what he can do day one at camp in Saint-Jerome.
Oh yeah, if you haven't checked out if you're not following him on Instagram, first of all, shame on you, because he's been putting up all kinds of training videos, and just looking at him, like, my God, the guy is yoked. I mean, he's looking like a beast. So I'm truly excited to see him get out there on the field on Sunday and start flinging the rock around. Oh my gosh, so excited. I mean, Davis Alexander coming onto this show once again for the first time in a long time. Definitely appreciated. So excited to see what big play DA can do in 2025. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's your starting quarterback.
Exactly. Don't forget, we are on social media. You can find us on all the podcast aggregates. Just do a search for Alouettes Flight Deck, and you'll find us there. Hey, if you want to, by the way, you can also check out the entire archive of the show over at our main page, and that's over at www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. If you want to find us on any other locations on socials, you can find us over on X and at Blue Sky over at Alouettes FL Deck. Over on Facebook at Alouettes Flight Deck Pod, and YouTube and Instagram, that's at Alouettes Flight Deck. Speaking of YouTube, you can also find our companion post-game show, Flight Deck Live, powered by Sport Buff. It will be there starting this week. Make sure you do watch us there. If you want to find out any of the past episodes, also from audio version to the full broadcast version of our show of Alouettes Flight Deck, you can find it there over on YouTube. But hey, by the way, if you wanted to make sure that we are going live, make sure you do click the bell, change the notification, make sure you know when we're going to go live, because obviously being at camp, we're going to do our stuff. And then, as I said, premiere edition for 2025 of Flight Deck Live. If you're looking for merch, make sure you head over to our store over at flightdeckgear.ca. Still in the process of getting some new merch up. We have something coming out very, very shortly that I think we mentioned last week, but I think people are just going to love. We've got a couple of other ideas too, but so stay tuned for those. And also, again, I want to thank our presenting sponsor of Royal Retros. Again, if you head over to royalretros.com, use a promo code FlightDeck at checkout, you will save 10% off your entire order. So we mentioned a little bit before, Cliff, at the beginning, is that, Jonathan Senecal was a part of that thing every year that the CFL does when it comes to the internship program. And the Alouettes as well, I guess we can say the Owls and the CFL kind of released who they've invited this year. And I think you have that information in front of you, but I was actually quite surprised in who the Alouettes invited.
Yeah, I mean, how about kind of makes me laugh because where do the Alouettes play? At Percival Molson Stadium. Who else plays at that stadium? The McGill Redbirds, of course. And as a result, it almost feels like, do I want to call it an internal hire, so to speak? I mean, even if it is for the internship program, does this count as an internal hire? The Montreal Alouettes, as you said, the Canadian Football League, all 9 teams are going to be inviting a young U Sports quarterback to come and be an intern, so to speak, at the quarterback position. And the Alouettes are going to be bringing in Eloa Lacandres Regimbald, again, of the McGill Redbirds. My goodness, the stats on this young man are nothing short of spectacular. And just like Jonathan Senecal was last year, he's going to be in camp. I don't think he's going to get much, if any, playing time at all, but he's going to get something just as valuable. He's going to get that experience. He's going to see what it's like to be in a professional locker room. He's going to be able to learn from other quarterbacks, including one that was, as I said, he was in his shoes 1 year ago. So, I mean, you talk about a great opportunity, not just for this young man, but also for all the young quarterbacks that are going to be throughout the league attending these training camps and getting the real working knowledge, getting that atmosphere of being in a training camp and seeing what's going to be expected of you when your time comes, when it comes for you to be drafted by a Canadian Football League team and start playing football as your professional career.
And that's the plus too. I think people need to, for those who may be listening to us from the States, that's one of the pluses about U Sport is that you can invite guys into the pro camp and it doesn't hurt your eligibility in any way, shape, or form. So, I mean, they just get, if you look at the list of who was invited this year for all this 9 teams in the CFL, you'll see all these guys are getting, as you just said, Cliff, they're getting great experience. Whether they may not be playing, but they're getting the experience of a professional training camp.
Definitely. And that in itself is valuable beyond measure. So I'm very happy for this young man to join the ranks of the Alouettes, even if it's only for a little bit, and he'll take that knowledge back with him to McGill. Again, he'll get a chance to play at Percival Wilson Stadium in 2025, just not necessarily for the Alouettes.
Yeah, exactly. The Alouettes also announced today that every single Canadian draft pick this year was signed, which is great. It's nice to see that that all the guys are going to be in camp. Obviously, I don't think we saw that have all of them been assigned. Most of them have been assigned numbers, but again, the Alouettes should hopefully update that the roster on their website shortly. We do know that Jonathan Seneca, as you posted, by the way, Cliff, earlier this week on social media, Seneca will be wearing number 15.
Yeah, unfortunately, the number 12 that he wore with the Université de Montréal, kind of occupied by one friend of the show, Najee Murray. Number 2 is going to Sean Oakman, another number that I believe Senecal wore back in the day. So he's just going to have to make 15 his number. That's all there is to it. And hey, listen, changing numbers is definitely a thing in the Canadian Football League. I mean, if ever his number becomes available, maybe he'll go after it. But why not make it your own? Why not take this number and take this opportunity to, show that, hey, you're in the big leagues now, and the past is the past. Let's focus on today. Let's focus on the future. And hey, look what changing numbers did for a lot of players. You just never know, right?
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. The only one that we didn't sign was one of our global kickers, our first pick in the global draft. We don't know. This is what the Alouettes reported today in their press release that they themselves did. The wrong number, the wrong thing. Press release. They did sign Hutley, which was their second pick in the draft, in the global draft. So we'll see. Again, I know that they did have another pick. We don't know what's going to be happening, but again, most of the guys will be there in camp. So it's again, it's going to be a great day.
Yeah, and again, we talked about a lot of these guys last week with JC Abbott of 3 Down Nation. I mean, it's one thing for us to talk about it from what we've been able to see based on their film and everything like that. But folks, this is your opportunity to see what these guys can truly do on a football field starting this coming Sunday. So again, if you're on the fence about whether you want to make the trip to Saint-Jerome to see Alouettes training camp, take the chance, if only to come see what these youngsters can do, because they did outstanding stuff when they were in college or university. Now they're pros. Now they have a chance to do it on a professional level. And I'm excited for them, quite frankly. I want to see what they can do, how they match up against the veterans that are on this team. And yeah, it all starts this Sunday. I can't overemphasize how it all starts this coming Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. And I am just mentioning this now, Cliff, because to me, it is a very interesting thing, at least going into camp. And I know we've been talking about the different storylines, so I am going to mention it. And by the way, again, I always say, make sure you do take a peek over the CFL Transactions Wire, everybody. But heading into camp, and we'll see how far this continues. But currently, Cliff, as of today's date that we are taping, Mustafa Johnson and Josh Donovan have both been transferred to injured veteran. What that means, don't know. We'll have to find out. So, also one last thing too, and a very big surprise is that the Alouettes this week, I think it was just yesterday, already announced their fan bus for the last last road game of the year at Ottawa. I mean, kudos. They're offering two options of where you want to sit, one either behind the bench or not, how much you want to spend. But I like what they've done. It's Ottawa. Ottawa and Montreal seem to be trying to go head to head with this rivalry. And they're having fun on social media. I'm very surprised that they did this versus the home opener for Ottawa, which is Montreal too, and that's in week 2, but it is what it is. But
maybe it's because it's a Friday game as opposed to the game that we're talking about is a Saturday.
That's right, and that won't probably be on CTV. You're correct. You're right, because that broadcast schedule has not been announced yet. So maybe you're right. So
Yeah.
Other than that, again, as I said, it's we're really looking forward to what's going to be happening at camp on Sunday. It won't be your normal practice day. That will follow. That will really be starting up on Monday with the 2-a-days. But we'll be there quite a few times over the next little while for training camp. So stay tuned to all of our socials, as we'd love to see you. We'd love to see you and chat about the game itself, and just watch this 2025 roster gel and come together, and see what these guys can do in the preseason games.
Absolutely. And yes, folks, we can't stress this enough. If you do see us, we won't be hard to find. We'll be rocking our Alouettes flight deck gear. Come say hi. You want to talk about the podcast, let us know how we're doing. If we're doing great, if we're doing terrible, where can we improve upon, or are we nailing it? Let us know. I mean, also too, let us know in the comments as well. And on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, I mean, hit that thumbs up. As Tim said earlier, hit the bell so you get notified when Flight Deck Live goes live, or when this episode gets posted, or any other content that happens come your way goes viral. You'll be notified right away. And yes, definitely come say hi to us. We'd love to meet you. I'd love to see you. And hey, it's almost like Christmas Day, right? I mean, first day of training camp, everybody's getting together. It's like a family reunion. All your friends, all the players that you know and love, all finally coming together for the goal of getting your ass to Winnipeg in November for the Grey Cup. And it all starts this Sunday.
Exactly. So we're looking forward to seeing you, and also looking forward to seeing the fellas on the field. So the football season is about to start, and we can't be, I'm sure fans across the CFL are just absolutely giddy. So we'll see you then. And if not, we will see you live this week on Flight Deck Live, or we'll talk to you again for at next week's show. So still can't wait to see or hear from you. So for everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on final approach.